Right on. So when you get to, when you're having an auction, I don't care if it's your first auction, your third auction, your 50th auction, you need to show up at your auctions early, no matter what kind of auction it is. You always need to, you need to be the first one there. I mean, preferably. I mean, in a perfect world, it's your sale.
Like an hour early, or?
Just depends. Depends on what all you have to get done before the auction. I mean, you're doing an estate sale an hour away from your office, you got an hour drive, things can happen. What if you break down?
Yeah.
What if something goes wrong? I've had stuff happen. So I think you should leave, let's say you have a, you're gonna open your office at, let's say you're gonna open your office at 7:30. Well, if you're doing an estate sale, you may be carrying tables out of the garage or the house, and you may need to be there, you may need to get there at 5 o'clock in the morning by the time to drag everything out. And you need to have coveralls or, worker clothes. Your people need to have worker clothes, not sale clothes, because the sale clothes, you don't want them to get dirty. So you show up wearing jeans and, a company shirt, maybe a logoed shirt, knowing that they may get a little dirty. Let me tell you, you get dirty at these sales. So you may be carrying tables out, get there at 5:30 in the morning or 5 o'clock. You may be carrying stuff out and dragging stuff out of the barn until 6:30, and then you need to go in the house or the shop and clean up and change clothes and start registering people. There'll be people show up at 7 o'clock in the morning. They'll show up before they're supposed to. You can say inspection starts at 8 o'clock. Well, at 7:30 they're there. So you need to be ready for them, and you need to have a pocket full of business cards to hand people. I mean, I shake hands with everybody that shows up at my sale. If I can get to them, I'll shake hands with them. I'll give them my card. Ask them if they need anything. Ask them what they're interested in. Is there anything in particular you're interested in today? All of my ringmen are going to be there when I'm there. They all have my business card in their pocket. My ringmen, if I pay you to work for me, you work for me. You don't work for you. You're not trolling for business unless you're trolling for business for me. And so, if the people like you and they say, hey, I was thinking about having a sale, maybe they like the ringman. They go, oh, I like you. You're a nice guy. I'd like to have a sale. Would you like to come out and look at my sale? And say, no, I won't be the one to come look at your sale, but here's Mr. Jones's card, and you can give him a call and he'll line that up. And at a fundraiser, you're working for whoever's having that sale. I had a relationship with some friends of ours on a very big auction, and it was a fundraising event. And these are people I've known for 30 years, 35 years. 2 of their kids went through my school. I thought the world of them. Well, I hired them to help me with an auction. I show up at my sale in a major city here in the state of Texas, and their vehicles is at the front door, at the front of the entrance to the auction, with their signs all over the truck. And that bothered me when I drove up and I saw their signs at the door of my auction, because now it looks like it's their sale. Well, we get in there, and I think I hired 3 or 4. There were 4 of them out of 8. And these are people that I've, like I said, been friends for years. I get in there and I do an auction, and it's a hell of an auction. We're talking about a $1 million fundraiser. There's an MC who's on television and does a lot of commercials and stuff, and we just happened to end up in the men's restroom standing next to each other. And we were doing our business. And he turns to me and he says, hey, great job. I said, thanks. And he said, got to meet some of your, and see, God sends you messages. It is interesting how God just sends you messages that you didn't expect to hear. And the guy says, yeah, I met some of your guys. I said, oh, you did? He said, yeah. One of them's from here in Houston. They said, if I ever need any help there's an auction to be had that, that they don't need to hire anybody from out of town. They can just call me or call this guy. And I said, oh, really? Yeah, he gave me his card. And I thought, well, now this is straight from God. God is sending me a message. I have an infidel amongst my ranks. And I said, oh, really? You got that card on you? So now by this time, we're leaving the restroom and we're walking out. He said, yeah, I'll give you the card here in just a minute. We get outside of the restroom and he pulls a business card out. And sure enough, it's a guy I've known for 30 years. And it's his family that I had hired to help. And, never had any respect for him from that point on. Just lost it. Never hired him again. It didn't cost us a relationship, it cost him a relationship. I just moved on. I hired 4 new people the next year. And they would call every year and say, hey, if you need any help on that sale, let us know. And I said, yeah, okay, we will. I never told him, and that was a mistake. It really was a mistake. Excuse me just a second. Sorry about that. It was a mistake, and I really hate, and he's deceased now, but I wish I should have, the week after the auction, on Monday or Tuesday, called him and I said, hey, that wasn't cool. It wasn't cool to park at my front door where 1,000 people are walking by your truck, walking into my auction. And the other piece is you shouldn't be soliciting business and telling them they don't need to bring me in from Dallas. That's just bad business. That's bad. That is unethical behavior. Okay? That's why I say, if you bring in people to work your auction, they have your business cards. Amen?
Amen.
Big deal.
Okay.
Big deal. Okay. So we assemble the crowd. We bring everybody together. Normally, I'll start telling people they need to, like when I actually start registering people. Remember, I'm visiting with people and I'm giving them my business card and I'm shaking hands with them and we're asking them if there's anything in particular they're interested in. Oh, do you collect anything in particular? Yeah. Well, I'm here for the tractors. Oh, really? Is there anyone in particular? Yeah, I'm kind of interested in that big John Deere. Oh, yeah? Start that conversation. Information is valuable. Oh, really? You see, ask them a question and see what they say. Have you seen any like that sell lately? Yeah, I went to an auction the other day down in Decatur. Oh, yeah? We're having an epidemic. I go, oh, really? What did that one bring? Well, it brought $37,500. Oh, okay. Was it in the same condition? He goes, actually, it wasn't as nice as this one. It had more hours. It needed tires. They start giving you a condition report. So what did I just learn? They sold one for $37,500, 30 miles from here, 2 weeks ago. It had higher miles. It needed tires. Well, that may be $5,000, $7,000 right there. So maybe I've got a $40,000 tractor. You need to learn all you can. I want my ringman to be walking around doing the same thing I'm doing. So then we have a little ringman meeting, and I'll say, okay, Philip, what did you find out? Now let's just say it's 9:30. Sales getting ready to start in 30 minutes, right? We've had preview for an hour and a half, and he goes, well, I've got a guy interested in the John Deere. I said, oh, really? What did he say what he'd give for it? He said, well, he thinks it's worth about $35,000. I said, okay, so that's good information. That lets us know about what that tractor's worth. And then maybe one of my other guys says, I got a guy, he's willing to go 40 on it. And then you'll have another one that says, I got a guy, he's from El Paso. He said he didn't care what it costs, he's taking it home. Now that changes the game.
Yep.
Right? So that's the kind of stuff I like to know. Or somebody and I'm making notes, right? They've got their notes, I've got my notes. So now we know we've got 3 or 4 great tractor buyers. Well, that's data, right? You heard a guy stand up here yesterday and talk about data. What's important? Building that database of buyers. Then, so you put them on, make sure that they're on your mailing list, specifically for tractors and implements, because you know they buy that kind of stuff. Same thing can happen with guns. Love guns. I'm a gun freak. I used to go in my 20s, when I was 22, 23 years old, I'd go buy entire gun stores. Because that was back at a time when you didn't have Dick's Sporting Goods, and you didn't have Bass Pro and Cabela's and all this stuff. And very few, you had a lot of little gun stores. Mm-hmm. People that just love guns, so they'd have 200 guns on the rack, and they worked on guns, and they repaired guns, and it was their passion. And they'd have their local crowd that would come there and buy and sell and trade guns. And so and the guy gets ready to retire, he says, yeah, I'm getting ready to sell out. And I said, well, what do you want for everything? And they'd give me a price, and I'd say, okay, I'll take it. They go, you want them all? I said, yeah, I want everything here. And I'd buy the guns and the ammo and every single thing there. And then I'd turn around and I'd have an auction. I'd either sell it there, or I'd move it to my building or wherever I wanted to go. And I'd sell my inventory of guns. And of course, I'd always take what I wanted.
Yeah.
I'd take off 2 or 3 guns or 5 guns or 10 guns and put those away, and that was like profit. And then I'd sell the guns. I'd sell everything there. Yeah.
You can have your FFL.
We're going to have that class later.
All right.
Yeah. So to do that, the answer is yes. If you're going to be in that business, you're going to need to get you a license. So we'll talk about guns later. But I'm just telling you, that's a real, you've got to be very focused on doing things right. The government does not jack around. They will come in, they will raid you. And one of my instructors in auction school, who had been in the gun business for 30, 40 years, sold thousands of guns in another state, and they raided him, and he's been tied up in litigation now for about 10 years. And it broke him. And the guy was wealthy. He'd made tons of money in the auction business. And the government broke him because he wasn't handling his books right. Isn't that sad? And nicest guy you ever met. That didn't have a crooked bone in his body. He just didn't handle his books right. And unfortunately, ATF doesn't care about that. They don't care what a nice guy you are. You don't keep your books, you're going down. Yep.
Before the auction begins, as guests are coming in and you're in a new place and you're kind of trying to engage with the guests and try to find out where the money's at, do you have a particular method or, if you don't know anybody there, you're not sure exactly where the money is, so how
I've become friends with everybody. I've got a logo on my shirt. All my people have a name tag, just like the instructors at this school. It says, Bob Johnson. And that is kind of what your job is, to be everybody's friend. The ringman's job is to be every buyer's advocate, right? Their job is to entrench themselves into my buyers and become their friend. Oh, really? You're into clocks? That's funny. My grandmother collected clocks. They've got to learn to have dialogue. Let me tell you something. If you tell somebody, oh, really? What kind of guns do you collect? I only collect Winchesters, pre-1900. Really? Now I'm going to write down when that guy walks off, or I may even just whip out the pad and go, you said pre-1900? I want to know that, because I may come across something. I think I know one I may have for you. I was doing a fundraiser in Austin 6 months ago for a group, first time I'd ever worked for them. And a young lady that ran for mayor of Dallas, who's a good friend of mine, she was down in Austin at this fundraiser with her husband. And her husband is best friends with Ross Perot Jr. And they fly helicopters around and they shoot guns, and they have guys out days where they take 10 of their buddies out to the ranches and shoot these crazy ass guns. And he's always been kind of aloof. I remember one night, Lori and I went to dinner one night with him, and he just wasn't very friendly, kind of a jerk. And we were sitting there, and we were both thinking, because he wasn't paying any attention to what we're doing. It's just the 4 of us. It's like a date night. And he's just like in a different world. Now, she's brilliant. She's like what is she? You remember what her...
Engineer.
No, she's like a microbiologist or something. She was like a chemistry freak or a medical biology person. I mean, brainiac.
She worked on the bridge.
Yeah, she helped build the bridges that go across the creek down here. We call that a creek in Dallas. The Trinity's a creek. It's like, you hear about the Texan and the guy from New York up in Niagara Falls, and the guy from Niagara Falls is so, he's from New York, he's so excited to show the guy Niagara Falls, and he goes out there and he says, well, what do you think? And he says, nice creek. But she's a brainiac, he's a multimillionaire oil guy, and so we didn't really care for him. Well, now all of a sudden, it's been 10, 15 years later, and, you know, my career has gotten, now I'm a bigger deal than I was 15 years ago. And so now he's chasing me all over the place at this auction, which I thought was hilarious. And I'm going, I can't even remember what his name is right now. But he says, hey, if you come across he said, I'm looking for a sword from the Civil War. I go, okay, what side? And so anyway, we had this conversation. You can figure what? You figure that one out. I'm from Texas. There was a year range. I mean, we're that specific. We're looking for a specific range of year, a certain side from the Civil War that he wants to hang in his office in Dallas. So I write that down. He said, if you know where the one is, just, you know, let me know. And I really need to follow up on it. I've just been busy. But that sword, it's going to be worth a lot of money. I mean, it's going to be, he has nothing but money. Just total money. So always write down what people collect, because what's going to happen is you're going to run across something. And you know what? If I find him a sword, guess what he's always going to do? He's always going to call me. Mike, here's what I'm looking for now. Or I've got a buddy and he wants to buy a Gatling gun. You know, I got a guy that wants to buy a bazooka. You know, and there's always a guy that people go to. So you want to be their advocate. So around 7:45, or 8 o'clock, I'm going to say, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for being here this morning. If you haven't gotten you a bidder number, please make sure you have a bidder card before we get started. You know, the ladies are in the office at this time, or our office staff is ready for you. Just step over there, get you a bidder number. You will have to have a bidder number in order to bid at the auction today. So please take care of your business. And we're going to make that announcement 3 or 4 times, or 6 times between 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock. Okay? We're just reminding people to go sign up. Most people, they go to an auction, know they've got to sign up, but you're going to have some people that straggle in off the street and they just start walking around like it's a garage sale. They don't have a clue that they need to go to the office. So you remind them. Okay? Remember, I told you I like to record my terms and conditions, so I don't have to physically do it. Just put it on that machine, push the button, and let it play. That'll give them the other thing is, they can't say at any point, if something goes wrong and they decide, you know what, I'm going to sue that guy because he didn't tell us there was a 10% buyer's premium, or he didn't tell us there was sales tax today, or he didn't tell us this. Well, guess what? It's all on a recorded audio file. They can't deny because, and then you can say, well, you can make sure it never, the attorneys never get involved, because you just tell the attorney that sent you a letter, just say, that's fine. All of our terms and conditions are in the catalog, and they're on an audio file, and it's played, it publicly played 6 times before the auction starts. So if your guy didn't hear it or didn't read it, he also signed our terms and conditions when he came in the door. To get a bidder number, you have to sign off on our terms and conditions. There's no way he didn't know. Okay?
So Mike, do you audio record the whole auction?
Yeah.
And do you ever video record too?
Sometimes.
Okay.
When we did Cushman 21 years ago, we were in Lincoln doing that Cushman auction. We had, if you look at my Facebook page, I don't know which one. Let me see which one it is. You should check this out real quick. And it is the Mike McGavel Jones page on Facebook. On the Mike McGavel Jones page, the cover photo is the Cushman auction. There's about 600 people sitting on the floor of the plant. We literally sat on a Cushman cart. It was a flatbed, like a cart you'd have in a plant, drive around to pick up parts or whatever. This is a brand new one. It was like the last one they manufactured, and we used it as a prop. And we had a banner in front. If you blow that picture up, it's pretty cool. There's 600 people on the floor. We've got the internet bidders. We've got a giant screen that's 4 times as big as this one. We've got a projector shooting up the items. So it was an audio video presentation. And I hired a company to sit behind the screen. Nobody could see them. And this is back when we were still doing VHS tapes, because we didn't have the technology that we have today. But the guy's job was his job was to do, because we knew it was going to be a multi-million-dollar sale, was to record. And I had a camera embedded right there in the screen. And you guys that are going to have the auction house in Arkansas should do this. I had a camera you couldn't even see embedded in the screen. And you should have a screen in your place. You should have it to where people can see. You're on the floor, but you're still doing an AV presentation. It makes it easier. And it's like a show. People feel like they're going to the movies, even though they're not. So you got a camera here. We had a camera in the back of the room. And why did we have that? Because we had 2 recordings going at the same time. Recording from the front and a recording from the back that we could merge together. And then when you'd hear lot number 273 is a such and such Mazak lathe, and I'd give a few details, a model such and such. And I'd go, all right, 100,000, 125, 150, 75, 2, 2 1/4, 50, 75, 300,000, now 325, sold 300,000, bidder number 114. Well, I have the lot number, I have the amount, and I have the buyer. And I have 2 videos that correspond together, and so we have it. So we're during the auction, we get this guy that buys one of these machines for like $300,000 or $325,000. He goes up back to the office. See, that's why you got to have good people in your office. And you can't have weak people in your office who will change things based on what a buyer says. And it can happen. If you have somebody in your office that doesn't have a spine and they're intimidated by the buyers, and I go in there, because I can be intimidated. I can go in there on a $300,000 deal, and let's say it's sold for $325,000. Everybody in that room knows it's $325,000, but I'm over here in the office, and the office is nowhere near where the auction is. Right? It's just me and this girl who's 21 years old. And they asked me to review my invoice before I pay the bill, and we go down to the invoice, and I said, I didn't pay $325,000 for that. They said, what? I said, I didn't pay $325,000 for that. I paid $300,000 for that, or $250,000, or whatever I say. Like, I own the place. I didn't pay $325,000 for it. Oh, okay, let me change that. There's your $25,000 donation to that guy. Can that happen? And damn right, it has happened. So that's why I want people in my office that have been with me for a long time that knows how this rodeo goes. Because what I want to have happen is the girl, whoever's in my office, says, so you don't think you paid $325,000 for it? And they go, no, I know I didn't pay $325,000 for it. Okay, well that's fine. We have a recording of it. Mm-hmm. And they go, oh. And I'll get Mr. Jones back here, or I'll get Mr. Braun, whoever is, you're going to have a go-to person that the office can send and go get you, and then that person comes in and says, okay, what was the problem? Well, I'm pretty sure I didn't give $325,000 for it. Well, first off, now they know they're screwed, because they now know we've recorded it. They already know that. What's up, Paisan? So, hey, come back here. I want y'all to meet a ghost from the Confederacy. I mean, listen, this guy, you grew a beard since I saw you. Did you have one the last time I saw you?
No.
Damn, that's impressive. I just saw him yesterday. Hey, y'all say good morning to Mr. Swenson.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, are you doing a reenactment? I mean, why are you? What's up with the beard?
Reenacting coming to the school 20
When y'all get a chance, y'all need to look at this picture over here, because it's from 30 years ago, and he's the guy on the left, and he looks like, I don't know, some kid. Are you doing a reenactment? No, maybe you should. Scott loves history. He's an American history, he's crazy about American history. And he goes back to Gettysburg, and, you know, he's taking his kids back east, and they've gone to all these, well, he and I went to Franklin, Tennessee. Well, didn't we go to Franklin? Franklin, Tennessee. A lot of history there. The most generals in any war in the history of mankind died in Franklin, Tennessee. Yeah, it was not a good day for the Confederacy. And what's interesting is this whole area from Gainesville to Granbury and all this area, all these counties are named after Confederate generals. So there's some history there. Of course, I'm not going to get off on all that. I was just thinking about it.
So did you review the video? Did you have to review the video?
So here we go. Usually, once you let them know we have a audio or video of the actual sale, they'll back off. If it's a small sale or a pretty insignificant sale, what we'll tell them is, well, we're not going to review it right now. We want you to go ahead and pay the price that we said. And then when we get back to the office Monday, early next week, we're going to call you. We'll play the recording over the telephone, and you can hear it. And if we're right, the sale stands. If we're wrong, and we agree on that, then we'll send you a refund. But I want the money up front. I'm not going to, you know, on something that's $300,000, we're going to review it right then. Because I know that's going to be held to try to collect. Well, first off, they're not going to get the item out of the building if they don't pay the $325. Because once we've recorded it, it's too easy. Remember, I told you, that's why we have our ringmen write down the major items and the backup bidder. Remember, guy paid $325. Well, trust me, there is a $300,000 backup bidder somewhere in the room that we recorded. Okay, and with the internet, a lot of times it's an internet bidder. So, super important to record your auctions. The worst thing in the world is to have an auction and then you have a problem and you can't go back and review it. Okay?
How long do you have to keep those videos?
Well, you don't have to at all. There's no law that says you have to audio, video your auctions, although, frankly, if I was the government, if I was the state of Texas and the licensing department, I would require it. Because then you eliminate all these little lawsuits and small, you know, when the small claims court where they're arguing, you know, you would just eliminate all litigation over what somebody paid for something. If everybody had to record their auctions, it would just be a done deal. You know, the Dallas School District required me 35 years ago, 40 years ago, to record the prices on our auctions. I had to give them tapes. We ran 2 recorders. I'd record it for me, and we'd record and give them a copy of the tapes. Make sense? We never had any problems.
Do you have to put that in your terms and conditions, tell them that they're being recorded? Since it's public, you don't, do you?
Yeah. Normally you'll just tell them up front. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're recording the auction today just to make sure everything's cool, and we won't have any challenges, won't have any issues, and if there are any disputes, we'll just play the tape, or we'll play the recording.
Or it protects both of you.
Well, and you know, listen, when I used to do my contracts, if I would sit down in your house and we're sitting there signing an auction contract with the seller, I'd say, if you don't mind, I'd like to record this session while we're going over the contract. And I'm not worried about, you see, you don't want to make it look like you don't trust them. So what I'll say is, I'm going to record this so we don't make any mistakes. I don't want to make any mistakes. You know, I'm human, and I'm not worried about you, but I want to make sure that whatever I agree to, I do what I say I'm going to do. And if I've got it recorded, you know, I'll make sure that I've done everything I said I would do. And really, I'm really just recording them. Because they're the ones a lot of times that they're the problem. It's not me, it's them. They're the ones that sold the tractor before the auction. They're the ones that gave away grandmother's clock to somebody, or said they did, and then we find out they sold it for $5,000, or that grand piano, or whatever. Your problems are usually with your seller. It's not with you. Because we're just running normal. 10 o'clock rolls around, and we're going to say, welcome to the auction, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate you being here. We know that you have choices to be today, and the fact that you've decided to be with us, we really appreciate it. I know our seller does as well. My name is Mike Jones. I'm license number 6756 in the state of Texas, and I am licensed with the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation. We are covered by a recovery fund in the state of Texas. If you have any complaints or concerns, there is a placard in my office available to you. There's a contact information and a website, and if you have any issues, you can contact them. We are required by law in Texas to disclose that, just so you know. So make sure that you know that. It's the same licensing department that handles cosmetology, elevators, gas pumps, HVAC, also regulate auctioneers in Texas. So, I've told them who I am. I've told them that I'm licensed. I told them how to get hold of the state if they've got a complaint. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Johnson and Mrs. Johnson are moving to Colorado. As you know, they grew up in Denton, Texas, and Mr. Johnson, of course, you know, he was the mayor for many years. Mrs. Johnson worked at the hospital. They've been great community leaders. They've been very involved with First Baptist Church. I know we've got a lot of their friends from the church here today. So you praise your seller. You introduce your seller, you praise your seller, and you say, they've decided to move to Colorado and you get closer to their kids and their grandkids, and as they spend their latter years in life, they like to spend some time with their family. They're going to retire, and they're moving to Colorado. Now, I've explained what the sale is for. We've already praised the seller. When I introduce the seller, I'm going to ask everybody to clap. No, really. Why do I do that?
Get them engaged.
Yeah, you're getting them, and
It's a very positive reinforcement. It shows that I have appreciation for the seller. If you're thinking about having a sale and you see how I treat this seller, aren't you going to think, wow, that's pretty cool. He'll do that for me. I didn't hear that at the other auction I went, because when they're thinking about having an auction, what do? They go to 5 auctions. They're going to go watch 5 auctioneers or 2 auctioneers or whoever the most popular auctioneers in their area is, and they're going to see how you treat people. And if you show appreciation, then they're going to go, I like that guy. He appreciates working for these people, and I can see myself, people clapping for me. So that's important. So I introduce them, we clap for them. Right now I'd like to go over the order of the sale and just kind of give you a general order of what's going to happen today. We are going to start with some small items in the yard. We've got about 5 tables out here with some really cool stuff from inside the house. Some things I think everybody here is going to like. There's something for everybody, and we're going to do that the first hour. It's going to be timed out to about an hour. So we'll start, it's 10 o'clock. By 11 o'clock, we should be right where we need to be to offer the real estate. So at 11 o'clock, I'm going to offer the real estate, and we'll give you a chance to buy this property today. And when we get through doing that, then we're going to go right in and start selling the contents of the home, all the furniture and the appliances in the house. When we get through with that 30, 40 lots, we're going to step back out. We're going to start selling the vehicles. We're going to sell the tractor, all the farm equipment, and then we're going to sell what's in the shop building, and then we're going to come out and sell the lawn and garden items, and then wrap up this afternoon about 4 o'clock, because we usually average about 100 lots an hour, and about 4 o'clock we'll sell the box lots, and then we'll be done.
What's a box lot?
Hmm?
What is a box
A
lot?
box lot is going to be where, like, you clean out the garage, and there's some things that you just can't sell them individually. So we'll fill up a box with miscellaneous stuff that's fairly insignificant, but somebody will buy, and we always make sure there's something good in the box. We go, there's Power Grill in there. There's something in that box people will want, because we're trying to get people to haul this stuff off.
Yes, sir.
Okay? Because when this sale's over, I want that garage perfectly clean. I want to be to go in there and sweep the building down. Any trash goes, we put it in the sacks, bag it up, have the trash over here, so when we walk out of that place at 8 o'clock at night or whatever time it is, or the next day, they have a clean garage, the drawers are all empty in the shop, and everything is broom swept, okay? And pick up all the trash when the sale's over and all that. You know, yet you're going to have a food truck or a caterer. I want all the barbecue wrappers gone. I want all the Coke cans picked up, all the styrofoam cups.
Cigarette
You know,
butts.
when it's over, I want it to look good, okay? So anyway, we've outlined the sale. And here's the terms and conditions. And this is really important. The terms for today's sale is cash, check with a bank letter of guarantee, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, American Express, and you may offer other types of payment. You know, we live in a different world today, whether it's PayPal or whatever. Now, that's up to you. What I would do is go to one of your competitors' auction, learn about your competitors and what they do. Whoever's the most successful auctioneers in your area, I'm going to do what they do and maybe even take it a step better, okay? You want to at least offer payment opportunities like the others, at least, okay? And then we're going to talk about, we've done what type of payment. If there's a buyer's premium, then I think you need to let them know right away. That is a state law. It's a state law that you disclose all buyer's premiums. If you charge, let's say we came in here to liquidate this room, we would have some notices on the wall. Sometimes you do them and then you laminate them. Sometimes you make it to where you can change the number because the buyer's premium can change. They're not always 10%. It can be anything that is agreeable with you and the seller, but it needs to be within a reasonable range. The typical buyer's premium on miscellaneous is 10%, but I also know in Houston, Texas, there's a company that charges 18% on their machinery auctions when you get into like welders and plants and machinery. In fact, the name of the company is Plant and Machinery, and they charge 18% buyer's premium. So,
What about sales tax?
and that's going to be in my terms and conditions. So I'm going to say, okay, there's going to be a 10% buyer's premium in today's sale. We will be charging sales tax of 8.25%, which is the rate for Dallas County, unless you have a resale number. If you present your resale number, you will not be charged tax on the items that relate to your business, if it relates to this business or whatever it is. Or if you have a store or a resale shop, otherwise we're going to have to charge you tax.
Do you have,
So
do
now
you,
they know.
do you charge sales tax in Texas for farm?
No. Farm sales are not taxable. However, if you're a farmer in Texas, you're going to have a number. Like I have one. I have a card. I have a number. If I go to Tractor Supply, I'm in their system. Any Tractor Supply I go to, and their system actually separates the items. So it picks up the feed, it picks up whatever it is farm exempt, and then, but they also their database also knows what is taxable. So you can't charge off the candy at the counter when you check out. If you're buying stuff for your kid, if you're buying toys, like I bought one of these gasoline four-wheelers for my grandson for Christmas. And, you know, the thing's like $1,200 or something. And we have to pay tax on that. That's not tax exempt. But if it is directly related to feeding the animals or shoeing the animals or galvanized tanks or whatever, that is tax exempt. So and we would tell everybody that. You know, we let them know that when they check out, before they pay out, make sure they have given our office their tax exempt status, okay? Because we don't want to go through the motions, and then they say, oh, that's all non-taxable. Well, now we got to go back in, they've got to fix it, and they go, well, okay. That's why we tell people, let them know what, if you're tax exempt, please present your number and fill out the appropriate paperwork.
Do you have people fill out two numbers, one tax exempt and one taxable,
No, there's no such.
for like two different businesses if they do
Well,
it?
if it's two different businesses, that's a different situation. If you've got two different businesses, you've got two different numbers for that. You're not gonna have the same number on a furniture business over here and a tire store over here. They're gonna have two separate entities, okay?
They've gotten pretty picky on checking on that in Texas still on certain things. I know like mechanics and stuff.
Well, I've been audited. I've been audited multiple times. I've been audited by Texas. I've had Oklahoma sit in my office in Oklahoma City. While we're trying to collect money, they'll have an agent sitting in our office. I had Mississippi fly in to Texas to review my books and do an audit. And that's a long story I won't share with you. But the bottom line is we gave them the sale order. We're talking about the terms and conditions. Everything is sold as is, where is, without warranty or guarantee. There are no refunds. If we say sold, it's yours at the time we sell it to you. We're not responsible for accidents, fire, or theft while you're involved with this auction. If there is an error in the count of the item, if you buy something and we say it's 20 times the money, and you pay 20 times the money, and you get ready to check out, and you find out it's 17 times the money, bring it to our attention before you take the item off the property, and we'll adjust the count. Once the items have left the property, we will not adjust counts. Now I want you to think about that. If I have 8 of these pictures over here, and I sell them 8 times the money, and let's just say they're $100 a piece, $800. And the guy goes over there and gathers them up, and there's only, half that many, right? So how many are there? 4. There's 4. And at $100 a piece, that's $400. And he says, well, there's only 4 over there. Well, we're going to send somebody over there, and they're going to physically count to make sure there's only 4. And if there's only 4, we're going to go back into the office, and we're going to fix that count. Okay? That makes sense? Mm-hmm. Don't just say, well, I'm sorry, that's what they said. They said it was 8, you're paying 8.
Yeah.
That's not cool. You're going to have a problem.
I just want to make a comment on your your open statement for just an example. I don't know if you've ever dealt with this, but I just recently had an auction. I know you guys, I told you this, in last August, and the auction company was my personal auction that I set up. I was having the auction, and my dad still had some things in there, and the auction company on the opening statement made this big deal about my dad retiring and, basically made it his sale. And I had over $1 million worth of equipment that was mine, personally, sitting out there. My dad had $10,000 worth of junk.
You get your feelings hurt?
And it really pissed me off. So, just to use this as an example, if you're going to talk about something, make sure you know whose sale is it? Who's the guy that's came to you and got the auction?
Who signed the contract?
I did.
Okay. Why wouldn't they recognize that? Because they were connected.
That's a good question, isn't it? That's why I'm bringing it up.
You've got a weird deal going on. That's all I'm going to say. If I sign a contract with you, then you're my seller. You're the one that I'm looking at. Now, if there's multiple sellers, sometimes we have multiple sellers. I'm not going to point out every consignor in an auction, okay? Even if it's your sale and I have 10 people put selling the stuff in the auction, I'm not going to mention everything. Just not going to do it. I'll say, hey, we appreciate George having the sale today, and we want everybody to give him a nice round of applause. And we've also got some consignments in the sale as well, and we appreciate those sellers. End of story. We're not here to write a book about it. Here's the deal. Maybe the relationship, since I know who your auction company was, maybe because of that relationship and because he helped them get the sale, or that was the influence, or he's older, maybe that was the deal. Maybe they were trying to show him some love. I don't know. I don't know why people do what they do.
Get that sentimental dollar.
But you just heard a situation where a seller got pissed off because he didn't get any notice for being the seller. And if you sign the contract with me, I'm sure going to mention the fact that you're my seller. Unless you're a jerk.
Well,
but I will tell you, I will tell you, I have had sales, and I had one in West Columbia, Texas, south of Houston, where nobody liked that guy. I mean, nobody. To the point where they came to get even with him. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about this guy. This guy had an oil field supply house. He wanted to become an attorney. He left his wife, he got a younger girlfriend, they got married, everybody in the town knew him, they didn't appreciate any of that stuff, and so when it came time for the auction, just like I was saying, I mean, I got a $200 pipe wrench, that's 100% aluminum, right? And it should have brought good money. They wouldn't even give me $25. They just stood there and looked at me. And after that first 2 or 3 lots, I go, we're screwed. In my mind. I didn't say, hey, we're screwed. I'm just telling you, it was a really, I mean, it made me physically ill as the auctioneer. And this was in the 80s, so I was in my 20s. I couldn't believe it. I thought, I had no idea. Nobody liked this guy. So how did the day go?
Fast.
They sat, no, it was the longest day of my life. They sat in the back of the room, the wife sat next to him, and they could see what was happening. They had to have the sale because they were trying to get the empty building, the building empty so they could sell the building. She's crying through the whole auction. So I've got a seller who's crying, and I just really wanted to commit suicide. And my staff, they're looking at me like, what the heck? What's happening here? You know, sometimes, that's why it's really important that you know something about your seller. You need to know. Because that's what happens is you come in from out of town, you don't know you don't know all these people. I don't know all the sellers I've had. I've had 3,000 sellers in the last 30, 40 years. You can't know everybody. You know how you find out about somebody? Before you ever meet the seller, go to the Dairy Queen. You want to find out what people think about somebody? You don't go asking in a negative way. You just say, hey, do you know Mr. Johnson that has a hardware store? And if their face changes and they look like, yeah, we know him. I go, oh, something I ought to know? And they go, nobody likes that guy. He's getting ready to sell out. I go, oh, he is, even though I'm there to talk to him about selling him out. You know, people will tell you everything negative you never planned on hearing about somebody. If you just open the curtain a little bit, they're going to tell you everything. Oh yeah, well let me tell you about that guy. I'm just telling you, it happens. So not every situation is pleasant. Not every situation is great. And there are certain sellers, and I'm talking where we don't even talk about them at all. Nobody. We're just going to have an auction. We're having a sale. Here we go.
Did you ever shut the auction down in that case because they weren't going to bring the money they deserved or anything?
I've asked a seller before, what do you want to do?
Yeah, because they used to do that back in the Midwest, back in the 80s, when they were selling out all the farm auctions.
Yeah.
They couldn't get any of the surrounding people to bid.
Yeah.
So they had to like move all the equipment out to a different state or.
Well, you know, and what? Maybe that's the answer. You know, I haven't had to do it very many times, but I've had to have it a couple of times where there was something obviously not right, and I just go ask the guy, I say, what do you want to do? And I've had them say, sell it. I got to go. You know, it doesn't matter. I'm getting out of here. If you have to put it all together in one lot, just do it. Because they knew they were in trouble. And here's the other thing. What's your solution? Okay, if we stop the sale, now they've spent all this money for advertising. You've already assembled everybody together.
You're gonna be in the hole.
You're going to be in a hole. And then if I say, well, what do you want to do? Do you want to move all this stuff? Well, who's going to pay for that? Who's going to pay for the advertising? Who's going to do it's just not going to pan that well. So anyway, we tell them the terms and conditions, and that's important, right? We're also going to say, if you have any questions about the terms and conditions, see the folks in our office. If there's a question you have, just take it up with the folks in the office. Then I'm going to go on, I'm going to introduce the auction staff, who's working the auction, who's the auctioneer. If I'm the auctioneer, they know that. I'm going to say my assistant today is Scott Swinson, he's your other auctioneer. Everybody knows Scott. I'm going to introduce the ringman, and I'm going to do it all by first name. I'm not going to get into all their details. I'll introduce the people in the office. I'm going to introduce police, whoever's doing security, I've got the sheriff's department, I'm gonna mention them, because we like to mention that we have police. Scott and I, when we were doing auctions together, we always hired the DPS. We like to hire the highway patrol guys. There's a story there we'll talk about later when we talk about security, but I've gone to places like Arkansas and hired the sheriff's department. I like to use the locals because it gives me local credibility. Even though I'm not from Camden, Arkansas, I hired the sheriff from Camden and all of his people. And nobody's going to jack with Jones in Camden, okay? There's a point here at the end about questions, okay? Am I going to say at that point, do we have any questions?
Yep.
No,
No.
no.
See, back
Or
in
you'll
the,
never
back in
start
the
your
old
own.
days when I went to auction school, that was the standard order. And at the end, I'd say, all right, ladies and gentlemen, that's our opening statements. We're ready to get started. Do we have any questions? Well, all that's going to do is open up the floor
Yeah,
to every idiot
Okay.
that you never wanted to hear ask a question. Hey, I heard that tractor has a cracked block. Is that true?
So that should all be covered in your terms and conditions?
Well,
Well-
you're selling everything as is, where is. We'll make announcements on items. If we know something, we'll tell you, but I can't warrant it. No warranties. I'm not warranting anything. I'm selling it. There it is. There's a tractor. No warranties, no guarantees. Please inspect the merchandise. If you plan on bidding on the real estate, I'm going to assume you've done your homework and you've done your due diligence and you're prepared to enter into a contract this afternoon. You've obviously presented us with a cashier's check in order to bid. Please make sure you're ready to, to sign the contract and go to close within 30 days. Guys, 90% of the problems you're going to have in the auction business are on this page right here. That's where your problems are. So just be aware of it. And there are people out there that go to auctions just to create a problem. They want to sue you. They want to threaten to sue you. We now live in a world of lawyers and wannabe lawyers and brother-in-laws. Everybody's got a lawyer in the family, and it's like, well, yeah, I'll represent you. Don't worry about it. So I mean, once you get in business. So it's very important that you have errors and omissions insurance. Write that down. Errors and omissions. What is errors and omissions? It's an insurance policy. And real estate people know that in this room because we have errors and omissions insurance in case something is defective or potentially defective in the contract. And we'll have an insurance company that protects us. And if there's a problem and we end up going to court, then that policy, we call it errors and omissions. At United Country, if you're with United Country, we have errors and omissions that our company offers to our franchisees. My errors and omissions is through United Country in Kansas City. There's an insurance policy that presents those errors and omissions policies. Errors meaning there's an error in the contract, and omissions mean maybe we forgot something in the contract and somebody wants to sue us over that. There are errors and omissions for personal property. We actually offer that through our company. We have a policy that with personal property, you can cover yourself. But I'm telling you guys, I have had to go to court, not on something I did, but I've had to go to court on something somebody else did. I've actually been the corporate representative, the executive in Kansas City who had to go to court to fight for one of our United Country offices because they had an auction and something went wrong and the guy sued them. We end up in court in another state. It's not fun. There's nothing fun about depositions and spending your Thanksgiving weekend in an attorney's office practicing for court. But I've had to do it. So.
Will we have a separate section just on real estate or not?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I'll hold my question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Last, don't take this wrong. If you got an opinion, just keep it to yourself. I was kind of an anti-vaxxer, okay? I didn't want to get the vaccine. I'm not totally trustful of the United States government anymore.
No?
I don't believe everything Dr. Fauci says. That's just me. They've got a great media machine, and they're rolling out lots of ads about why I should get vaccinated. And funny thing is, taxpayers are paying for the ads telling you need to get a vaccination. So I was not vaccinated after the first round that I had COVID. But then I entered into a business contract in New York City that was going to pay me $100,000 for 30 hours work. That's a lot of money. Guess what the condition was?
Be
Vaccinated.
vaccinated.
If you want to come to New York City and testify in this case, because I was an expert witness, if you want to come to New York City, you're going to have to be vaccinated, because they're not going to let anybody in the building that's not vaccinated, because our litigation and our negotiation was taking place in the New York Times building near Times Square. So guess what? For $100,000, yeah, I got a vaccination, and I've had the follow-up and all that stuff, so I have it. But I don't get mad about people that don't want to get them. That's a personal decision, okay? But here again, there's so many influences in our lives that we don't control anymore. It's kind of like the fact that we've only got 3 or 4 companies that control 90% of the meat in the United States. That's why our prices are out the roof, and it's terrible. And anyway, that's. I did a podcast with about 3 or 4 of the meat people in the United States that are influencers, and I had the USDA on, where we talked about U.S. meat consumption, and it was everybody from an auctioneer that his company sells 1 million head a year to the different representatives. So I pay attention to things, guys. Terms and conditions are important. Introducing your staff. You also, please, for God's sake, when you're an auctioneer, you can get nervous, right? You can get excited, and sometimes our nerves get the best of us. You ever snapped at a loved one? Anybody, hold your hand up if you've ever snapped at a loved one. Okay? Okay. Is that bad?
You can raise your hand too.
Yeah.
Is that bad?
Yeah.
Acknowledge.
Yeah, it is bad. And, if you are somebody that snaps on your loved ones, you may have a potential to snap at an employee, and that's not good. If you want to ruin the relationship you have with your employees, have a short temper. This is not a good business to have a really short temper. Listen, I'm not telling you auctioneers don't have short tempers, because a lot of them have egos, and the bigger the ego, a lot of times the shorter the temper. And I've had to deal with a lot of them. I'm just trying to tell you, before you leave here, when you have a situation that puts you under stress or under pressure, when something makes you want to say something you shouldn't, stop, think about what you're getting ready to say. You can't bring words back. And I'm telling you, you will be known for what you say to people. You're going to be known for how you treat people. And if you treat people poorly, people will share that information that you're not a very nice person. And that's going to be your reputation, not only in business, but in your community and with your family. And, just please be careful with that. I've spent 40 years developing businesses and being a part of businesses, and just don't ruin your relationships over business, and certainly don't attack people and say you're just stupid. I've literally heard auctioneers call staff stupid. That's crazy. So keep your reputation intact. Okay? What's the one thing you're born with and you die with?
Reputation.
Your reputation. What's the number one attribute of an auctioneer? It's not your voice,
Reputation.
it's your reputation. That's on your test, by the way. So, the most important part of your business is your reputation. Okay? Maintain it and keep it. Okay. I'm gonna stop there. Now, I will say this, at the end of the auction, when it's over, and I sell lot number 500 and we're wrapping up, I said, good, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate you being here today. Always thank your crowd. I want to thank the staff for working with us today as well. They're available to help you right now to identify your items. Please make your way to the checkout area. Go ahead and make full payment. Full payment, and if that's something that needs to be in your terms and conditions too. Full payment day of sale. All accounts must be closed within, and you decide, 30 minutes after the auction, 1 hour after the auction, whatever it is, you need to tell people, we want full payment today before you leave. If you don't pay for your merchandise, it is subject to resale, and you'll be responsible for any difference in the amount. Okay? I could write a book on that.
What about removal?
About what?
Removal?
Removal needs to be in the terms and conditions.
It's very important because my sale, that was never said, and I still got stuff sitting in my lot that nobody come and picked up.
Yeah. You tell them how much time they have to get it off. So, ladies and gentlemen, the sales today, everything must be off the property by 5 o'clock on Monday, if it's equipment. I mean, listen, when we did the Cushman sale, they had 90 days. I had a full staff in Lincoln, Nebraska, in January, February, and March doing checkout, because it was 8 acres of equipment under roof. You know, that was attached to electricity and everything else. So that costs a lot of money. We probably spent $40,000 on checkout. So you got to learn how to do the math. How many people do you need on site? How long are they going to be? When are you going to turn it over to the owner of the property? When are they getting the key back where they're taking responsibility? What are their responsibilities? What are your responsibilities? And I'm going to give you a lawsuit story at another time related to just that subject. You've been given a handout. I want you to turn the page. Here's just a little thing about auction terms and conditions for you to think about. Then I've given you copies of terms and conditions. Here's one on construction equipment and millwork. Those are actual terms and conditions from down in Houston. Turn the page. Here are some terms and conditions, some general terms that I've used. Turn the page. Real estate terms and conditions, and I can tell you real estate terms and conditions can be extensive depending on what you're selling or how many tracts you're selling, and that'll be covered in the real estate class. And then you just see, I've tried to give you multiple things to look at. It'll give you something to think about. Lori, I know you were wanting to talk about a subject. Do you want to do it now, or do you want to do it afterwards? Let's take a break. All right, let's take a 10-minute break, come back in, and we'll rip and run.
Hey, remember Rich had that spreadsheet? He said he was going to give us a copy of that. We never got a copy of that, did we? Huh?
You have to request it from Lori.
Oh, okay.
Or she's